Thank you. All right, we're so glad you're here tonight, and we're excited to have these famous soul doctor. So thank you, Mark. So our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting parents whose children have passed. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. HPH goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. HPH affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at this meeting is voluntary. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members. So we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here. And I'll pass it over to Mark.
Thank you very much, Lynn. And I've muted most people, but if you would mute yourself, please, we don't get the noise. So if you've been on these before, pretty much the same intro. I'm sorry for what you're going through, but I have so much good news for you. It's not funny. And if you haven't already, you can have a breakthrough and have an incredible life, not despite your child passing, but because of it. And that will make your child so happy, and you'll be cheered on and rooted on and sense him or her more. So let's dive in. When I was just thinking about how to lead in this, because you understand what I'm going to say in the next 7 or 8 minutes is huge. I mean, it's like the secret of life. I'm going to tell you in 8 minutes. It's not easy, but I remember years ago I heard the saying, "Suffering is bliss," and another way to put it was, "Suffering is grace." And when I first heard that, I was like, "Well, that's stupid. What do you mean?" And I think I was going through a lot of suffering at the time. What do you mean suffering is grace? And that doesn't mean you want to suffer, but it means when you do, you look for the silver linings. And one of which is it can help you wake up to who you really are, to the big picture of life. It can help you understand the real nature of reality. So let's face it, when things are going smoothly, you don't reach down deep very much because, we're all busy just day-to-day stuff, and we're just dealing with that. But when we're really presented with a tough situation, like the passing of a child, that's what really makes us ask those existential questions that people eventually wonder about. Who am I? Why am I here? What happens after I die? Is there really a creator? If so why is there so much suffering, etc.? So, I worked in hospitals for 6 years as a respiratory therapist part-time while I was going through pre-med and theology school. And so I was with a lot of people as they passed. And some of them, I mean, they're like an hour or two away from moving on to greener pastures. And they said, I've always wondered, what is the meaning of life? And I thought, well, it's a little late to ask, isn't it? Might you have? And so, the blessing, one of the blessings is with your child pass is it gives you an exquisite opportunity, a real motivation, a push to awaken. And there are lots of other things that can wake people up. I will cite some articles as we go, but one is about spiritually transformative experiences, or STEs. And that's just a term, anything that wakes you up. And the article is number 17. So there's a whole list of quote triggers, and it can be the birth of a child, the passing of a child, getting married, being exposed to violence, some soldiers in war, walking in nature. I think that really how it works is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And what you're awakening to is realizing the great news. I mean, Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. He's talking about the truth of how life is. And the nice thing is, it's not just religious views, but also now contemporary evidence, some scientific, lots of clinical evidence, many firsthand experiences all point to this list of the great news. And Dr. Schwartz and I assembled this, and it's in article number 19 at soulproof.com. So I recommend, if you haven't already, print up that list, because this is our best understanding, again, based on a lot of evidence, how life is set up. And it's all wonderful news, like no one really dies. Yeah, I know the body does. The earth suit, your human form, but that turns out to be about as important as a sweater you wore in third grade. This body is really very inconsequential. And I don't mean to demean if you're deep in grief and relatively new to this journey. I don't mean to demean it or minimize it or sound glib, but really in the cosmic span of things, it's true. Who you really are and who your child really is, and I didn't say was, but is much more than this body. In fact, turns out the body is much less than 1% of who and what your child is. So the more you get this great news, the more you awaken and you remember you're one with the one and part of source. You're an eternal being of energy, spirit, consciousness. No one really dies. You'll see your loved ones again who have changed worlds. There's a good chance you all worked on this plan, came up with this adventure, at least the possibility for it, for the service and for the love that could spread from this. And I know many of you have stories when your child's funeral was held, you were shocked at how many people showed up and the stories you heard, and you had no idea that your child was out there touching so many people and brightening so many people's lives. So that's part of it. Another big part is to know that, life is forever, no beginning, no end. It's really, we can't comprehend it. And this earthly experience, even if you lived 100 years old, is but a blink of an eye in the span of eternity. So that's really how long you're living and they live. So I know it's tough if you're looking at it just as a human and say, well, she passed when she was 20 or he passed when he's 4. But we all pass in a literal blink of an eye. So that's some of the great news, and that's some of what you have to remember. Another big one is your child was just a child in that particular time, space, dimension. Now, they'll always be your child in a very special way throughout eternity. That will always be real and always be accessible and a sacred connection. But that's not all they are. So if you see them as a child forever, in other words, and again, I'm not criticizing or demeaning, but some parents, they keep track. He would be 16 now, he'd be starting his freshman year. And I go, that's just limiting who and what he or she is so much. Because there's so much more than that. And they likely were highly evolved souls if they volunteer to come here for a while, just a short while, whether it's a day or 30 or 40 years. They didn't need to do the whole earthly thing. They came here for specific reasons to touch people, look at all the ripples they created. And as I've been saying lately, there's some good evidence that a meta reason for all this and a meta calling for all of you is we can help change the world for the better. This group of parents, what we call shining light parents, can be the tipping point to bring peace to the world. And for enough people to wake up, there's another group which is near-death experiencers. And like some of these shining light parents, they're some of the most vibrant, joyful, loving, peaceful people I know. Lynn and her husband, Jeff, for example, are amazing examples of that. So that's something to, gosh, when you realize there's a real meaning for what you went through, it's not random, chaotic, or cruel, but there is a love and a design behind it that you can't fathom. But the more you do, the more you realize, oh my gosh, what a calling. A lot of people use that word calling as a minister. Well, you got a calling to be a minister. Well, you each have a calling too. So I hope you listen to this if you need to again and again. Just a couple other things I want to share before we start rolling. And the first is I want to share resources because these are so important. And if you see it, it'll help. So I'll go to the Helping Parents Heal website. Can you see that okay, Lynn? Helping Parents Heal. Okay. So if you go to the top, YouTube videos, and the very first one, affiliate leader and caring listener videos. This is called Beauty and the Beast at the top here. And these are the 130 interviews we did over a 6-month period. If you haven't watched these, do yourself a favor and share them with others, and not just parents with kids who have passed and family members, but anyone who's encountered adversity, because these parents are so wise. They shared so much about how you can not only survive but thrive, how you can sense your loved ones, how you can find meaning and purpose in it, how you can help and serve others. So that page. The other thing is under resources, and then you go to Shining Light Resources. And this is a list that Elizabeth Boyson and I assembled. These are all the resources, Facebook page and YouTube videos and caring listeners, movies, books, how to find a local group, how to attend the weekly webinars. And then these are my articles that they're the most commonly asked about articles, when your child passes by suicide, etc. And then also I share here 4 free audio programs: Holistic Breathing, Ask Your Soul, Facilitate Afterlife, and Pre-Birth Planning. So again, under resources and then Shining Light Resources. So that's enough for that. And with that introduction, let's dive in. And who has the first question? Truly ask anything you want. Don't hesitate. You can bet if you have that question or challenge, others do as well. Really? You got to ask the soul doctor here. Where's my sign? I got proof. So here we go, Jennifer.
Okay, hi.
Hello.
It's been a little over 2 years since my son passed. I'm still lost. What do I do?
Okay. And would you like to share, how did your son pass?
He drank alcohol and he contracted hepatitis and he didn't know he had it and his organs shut down.
Okay. So you tell me, 2 years, why do you think you're still feeling stuck? And I'm not saying 2 years is a long time and you should be perfect, but Obviously, you feel like you're stuck, or you wouldn't be asking the question.
Because I guess because I don't feel like I've gotten a visitation from him or a dream. I don't feel his presence, and I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know
Okay.
why I'm still here.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for asking, and I've got the answers for you. So if we go back to that list of resources, first of all, have you used the Caring Listeners?
Yes.
Okay, good. So keep doing that. Number one. Number two, I recommend for you article number 9. Do you have a paper and pen so you can write these down?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, read article number 9 at soulproof.com. And it's called How to Visit with Your quote departed loved ones, because you realize they're not really departed. He's probably right beside you saying, "Come on, mom, you got this." And so it just talks about basic things you can do to facilitate or increase the chances of a meaningful contact. And then on the resources I just showed you, helpingparentsheal.org, the resources tab, and then shining light resources, it's got the facilitated afterlife contact technique where, and there's first there's an introduction, but then I do a deep relaxation and guided imagery to help turn down your brain and help you better sense his presence. So I would do that 2 or 3 times a week till you start sensing him more. Okay.
Okay.
It's not a matter, it's a matter of you not receiving his visits. I'm sure after 2 years, I'm sure he's made contact. It's just a matter, you have to be a better receiver. So we've got number 9. The next step is to release some of the pain because your son right now is in a realm characterized by peace, joy, love, gratitude. And if you're in deep wounded and pain and sadness and regret and anger and guilt and all that, you're going to miss him every time, you see. It'll be very difficult for you to pick up his visits. So this technique I'm describing is described in article number, let me make sure I have it right. Article number 70, and it's called holistic breathing. And so the technique, by the way, is it possible to move your camera so I can see more than your forehead?
Yes. Sorry.
There we go. All right. So the technique is free on that resource page, and you can just watch the YouTube video of it, and I take you through it. So do that holistic breathing, 45 minutes of deep noise and diaphragmatic breathing. And if you're getting teared up asking these questions, you're going to bawl your heart out. But those are healing tears. At some point, you'll get it out and you'll release that deep pain and wound. And so that's another important thing. Then you asked about purpose. You don't know what you're supposed to do. Well, one thing is to help people in your area when you feel ready. Through helping parents heal. So whether it's a local group or some other way you can help. But article number 21 discusses how you can identify your soul's missions. And that technique is not on the resources list, but it's under shop at soulproof.com. And it's only $15. And it's another deep relaxation guided imagery to help you go within and get help from your angels and guides and get in touch with, okay, what is my purpose? Because you're spot on that the more you're doing what you're supposed to do, the more you're helping others, that's really going to accelerate your healing. So make sure you use that. And for you or anyone else, if you can't afford it, email me, mark@soulproof.com, and I'll send you a free digital copy. So there's 4 things you can do right there. Any questions about any of that?
No, I'll definitely try them out. Thank you.
Well, that's your homework. You're welcome, but it's going to cost you because I'm going to ask you to get in touch with me in 60 days. I want you to do all those things we just mentioned for 60 days and then email me and let me know how are you doing. And if you're like
Okay.
people, you'll be better, but you'll say, I'm still struggling with this. And then I'll say, okay, then do this and this. And we'll just keep doing it till Lynn and I were talking before the class about one of the attendees who really struggled for quite a while. And finally, she had a breakthrough and she's doing so much better now. And we just applauded. We said, isn't that magical when a parent sees the light? It's kind of like being reborn. And then, because see, the world needs your light, the world needs your blessing. And one of the reasons your son probably drank and took whatever, it's difficult on earth, as you know. So that's why we need all hands on deck. So that's why I'll do anything I can to help you get with it, heal, and then you become part of the solution. And like I say, it's a level of peace and joy that you can't even imagine right now.
I
Thank
will definitely let you know. Thank you.
All right. Take care. God bless.
You too.
Liza, you're up next if you speak up.
Hi, thank you. My son passed at 18 years old 10 months ago. He had a sudden illness and left pretty quickly. I connect with him every day. I speak with him. I hear him speaking to me. He always says, listen with your heart, not your head. And I get signs frequently. My 14-year-old daughter does too. My what's holding me back, I believe, are what could have been done differently, what we didn't know. He had an undiagnosed illness, and the what ifs and all of that. That definitely holds me back, and I think it prevents me from a deeper connection with him.
Sure, you're exactly right. And first of all, kudos for 10 months. You're doing really well. I can see it.
I give him credit. I give my son credit for that. He doesn't
Well,
let me falter. He
the
keeps
signs
lifting me
help.
up.
But thank you for bringing up the guilt because that is one of the biggest common denominators among parents. Even the ones who are moving towards shining light, they still feel it. And that's just part of being human. Um, it's a tricky thing to have this earthly experience because on one hand, we're divine beings, we're children of God, we're one with the one right now. On the other hand, we're human beings, and you kind of have to balance those two. I heard many years ago the saying, "Be in the world, but remember you're not solely of this world." And that's the balance. So you're going to have some guilt and so on. But to help you move along quicker, I would say the same technique for Jennifer in the holistic breathing. So it's article number 70. That's one of them under the Shining Light resources. And I would do that twice a week for you. And again, you're going to cry. So at first, do it when your daughter's not around because you'll just wail and blubber. But after a while, then you've got out and you're more clear then. And the other, was there any involvement with like medical malpractice or suboptimal care, or did you feel like it was on you more?
No, more so we didn't know, we didn't see the signs. Neither did he. It's not like he told us he was feeling a certain way. He was a healthy kid. This was an undiagnosed stomach ailment that we weren't aware of. I've been trying to rely a lot on soul planning, that this is something that he and I planned, and that helps me with the guilt a little bit. And then I'm feeling really strong about that, and I feel really connected. And then all of a sudden, the guilt creeps back up on me. So that's something I really have to work on.
Yeah, well, you're doing really well. But to help with that guilt, I have a technique that's called love, acceptance, and forgiveness. the laugh technique, LAF. And it's described in article number 40. And there's an audio program for that. And under shop. And so I recommend that. And the main person it sounds like you need to forgive is yourself. And maybe your husband needs to do that as well. Or anybody else involved, you could say the doctor, why didn't the teacher see it? Anybody who pops up, just go through the love, acceptance, and forgiveness. As far as the pre-birth planning, that's described in article number 25, I think, of 121 articles. I can't remember the numbers. Yeah, article number 25. And what do you know? There's an audio program for that. And that's one of the free ones as well. So you can go through it before, by the way, each one of these techniques, set an intention for that time. And you could say, okay, I would like to understand, was there some pre-birth planning? Because not everything is pre-planned. With my son's passing, he and I, soulmates, what was our thinking? And how can I use that information now to create the most meaning, the most blessings for as many people as possible? Make him proud, fulfill the reason for all this. Any questions about any of that?
No, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're right there.
Thank you.
Jessica, you're up. If you speak up, I'll be able to see you. You need
Can you hear me?
yes.
Hi, just want to say thank you for doing this always because I love listening to you. I had a situation like 2 weeks ago. I was waking up and I just remember a bright light and I was trying to say thank you, Pierce, which is my son who passed. But I woke up and I was laying in bed, but I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My whole body felt like it was vibrating. And then I got a sharp, noise like ringing in my ear and I couldn't speak, I couldn't move. I just lay there and I was like, this is different. And I was expecting something to happen, but nothing really happened. And eventually it just all calmed down and I was able to say, thank you, Pierce. And then I just lay there and I felt very peaceful and very happy. And then 10 minutes later, I just got out of bed and started my day. But I was like, what was that? Like, should I have tried to do something? Like, I didn't know if somebody was going to appear or if I was going to go somewhere, but it was cool.
Yeah, I can tell by your energy. Well, thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. And is that the first time you've had something that intense?
I had it happen like a couple months after my son had crossed over. He passed at the end of February of this year. And it was like in the middle of the night and it kind of happened and I tried to go back to bed and then it happened again, but it was just more vibrating and I was just excited, like, what is this? But then it just kind of all just would calm down and then nothing. So I don't know, like it's organically happening and I'm like, what should I do with it? I don't know.
Yep. Well, first of all, as with Liza, kudos. I mean, that's 8 months or less. So that's remarkable. But yeah, that sounds to me like an afterlife contact. Other people call it a after-death communication, but I think afterlife contact's a lot better term for it. And what we think is happening is something like this. And you said you were just waking up. So
Yes.
you're in the what we call hypnagogic state. In other words, you weren't fully asleep, but you weren't fully awake. And that's your brain was still turned off. Remember, your brain is the great deceiver. It thinks it knows everything, but it turns out it knows almost nothing. It perceives less than 1% of reality. So in that moment, it could well be that you and Pierce were visiting in another realm while your body slept. In other words, just because the body is sleeping, the soul doesn't have to sleep
Right.
all night. So there's a good chance you two were visiting, whether he came closer to you or you came close to him or you met halfway, doesn't really matter. And so you caught just the tail end of that. Bright lights, vibration, ringing ear. I mean, that's tremendous. So now that you've had it, And yeah, it's understandable. You didn't know what to do. Like first time you have it, like, okay, what happens next?
Yeah.
It's now that you've experienced, you can say, okay, and you can stay with it. In other words, if you want to, you can hold that space more and say, okay, Pierce, I think this is you. I love you. You have something you'd like to communicate to me. And then just be quiet and see what pops in. Some people describe it coming in the heart, sometimes in the head. And then just this can be the beginning of a whole different but very powerful, not beginning, but an advancement in your relationship
Right.
now.
Yeah, I felt like that too. I felt like we were visiting because I just remember a bright light and then I was trying to get out. Thank you, Pierce. Like, like I was grateful for whatever we experienced, but like I just couldn't speak. Like I was completely like, in paralysis or something. I just couldn't speak or move or do anything. So I was like, all right, well, this is cool. I don't know what I should be doing. Like, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy the way you describe that. So my guess is that you would do really well with that facilitated afterlife contact session described under Article number 9. It's in the list of free audios under the Shining Light resources. And just do that technique, and it will replicate or take you to a similar spot where your brain is turned way down, and then the rest of your consciousness is able to pick him up. It sounds like he's a intense one, a brightly
Yeah.
shining one. And is that the way he was on Earth, by the way?
Yeah. Yeah. He was 16 when he crossed over. He was autistic. And he got the flu and was here, and within 3 days he passed, and it was crazy traumatic and not expected, but just everything that I've learned from you guys, like my soul tells me this is true, believe this, like this is how it is. And even himself, like he came through pretty strong within the first couple of days, just telling me like be grateful for the time we had together, and don't be sad for what you think we're going to miss out on, because that's not something we had 16 years together. Be grateful for that. And
Right.
so whenever I get sad, I just think about just be grateful, because that's what he tells me.
Okay, now I've got to take a breath. Wow, you realize that's one of the highest, these 130 interviews that Lynn and I did. What you just described is one of the highest functioning reactions to a child's passing. So, on one hand, somebody who's stuck in grief, they'll go, why did he or she pass? It's not fair. We only had him for 16 years. But these shining light parents tend to say, thank you, God, for
Yeah.
being blessed to live with this. They could be part angel, when the kids are that special, or they could be
Yeah.
guides in training. Thank you for 16 years with this special one. We are going to make you proud. We're going to take the lessons and the examples you set, and we're going to run with it and share it with everybody we can.
I
So,
try.
yeah, you're doing it. I wonder, because we start off with Jennifer, and Jennifer's is the one that said still feels stuck. Is there anything else you'd like to share to her and all the other parents?
Yeah, I was there. My son passed next to me in the car. As I was driving him to the hospital, and I had to perform CPR on the side of the highway, and it was very traumatic, and I was, very into myself, like what should I have done differently? Should I have gone to a different doctor that morning? Should I have went to the hospital sooner? And the only thing like kept coming up is like, my son like telling me this was my journey, this was my plan. Like there was nothing you could have done differently. And then when I would say, why me? Why my kid? I would hear this voice say, why not me? Why not? Because we're nobody special. We're all here trying to do this thing called life. So it's like, just try to learn from it and just find the love in everything. And so that's just what I can tell you to do, and just you know, try to just find the love.
Whew. Okay, well, way to be, girl. That's impressive. Good job.
Thank you. Well, he helps me. He's given me that love, and he shared so much joy and brought so much joy to so many people's lives. And I'm like I said, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the 16 years I got to be his mom.
Good job. Yeah. Okay. Super. I don't know how we follow up with that, but we'll try.
Thank you.
Now, take care. Well, don't be hesitant. I mean, there's no grading system here, but she's one of the brightest ones I've seen. Wouldn't you agree, Lynn? The energy, the smiling, the boom. I mean, just saying it straight out the way she put it. Anything you'd like to share about that?
No, Jessica, you're amazing. Thank you for sharing that and giving everybody inspiration. Thank you. And I think I was muted when I was telling the question from Becky. I don't think you guys heard it. So this is in the chat room. Where is the first place to go to understand soul planning? My mind hasn't been open until now to learn about soul planning. I want to learn from my son.
Okay. And first of all, Becky, I'd love to see and hear from you so we can have a little dialogue here.
Hello
Hello.
there.
So the first thing is article number 25 at
Okay.
soulproof.com. And it's a really long article because this topic of pre-birth planning, planning, soul contracts, there's different terms for it. It's a big topic, and there are a lot of facets to it. And then there's that pre-birth planning technique. That's one of the free ones under Shining Light Parents. So there's a great start. My friend Rob Schwartz has also prevented for helping parents heal. And Lynn, I don't know if you're able to identify or find his webinars he's given so people can watch those. But he's written Your Soul's Plan, I think was his first book. And he trained with Dr. Michael Newton and has kind of specialized in this area of pre-birth planning. So there's quite a bit of resources right there. But I wonder if you'd like to share, what are your questions? In other words, what more specifically would you like to find out if it was indeed planned a possibility for?
Well, I'm just kind of opening my mind to understanding that there was already a plan in place for each person to learn. But my situation just had me questioning a lot. I found my husband and my son and another person passed away in my house due to carbon monoxide poisoning. And so it's like, well, how did they complete their role all on the same day? And it's like, my son taught, there was a few times he stopped me in my tracks when he was alive by saying something, and it just stopped me. And I was like, oh, wow. And I keep saying, okay, Tom, I need to learn from you. And he would research like different things about aliens and angels and pyramids and like different things. And it's like, Tom, I'm not done learning from you. I need to hear from you. And so now it's like, okay, I need to open my mind to soul planning and different things. And so I'm just trying to figure things out because I just trying to figure it out,
Oh my gosh. Well, whoa, how long ago was that?
It was August of 2022, but helping parents heal has been just tremendously helpful. I got connected and I went to the conference and stuff, and it's just amazing. So it's like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. So, so it's like, oh, what else can I learn? Where can I go? Who can I talk to? And,
So what is this, like the amazing evening or something here? Have we ever had a series? I mean, your husband, your son, and another person.
and my dog, everybody in my family. So it's like, but I know there was some, I just feel like there's more to things. And I do feel like they're here. And it helped that I got a recent reading that was just wonderful. And that helped as well. And so it's like, oh, I want to talk to them. I want to hear from them, and I want to feel them. And I want to pass this on because it's been the thing to keep me going. Cause it's like, it's just devastating. All of us have gone through our own worst case thing. And it's like, but I just feel like there's something I have to learn and something I need to do, but I'm not sure what that is yet. So
Sure. And what's your occupation, Becky?
Um, I work as a supervisor for kind of like a not-for-profit for families that have kids with mental health issues.
Okay. Yeah, you're very organized. I mean, and intelligent, like, or something I was supposed to figure out. So that's the intellectual side, which is great that you're focused on that. But I wonder, how's your emotional side doing? Do you feel deep grief sometimes still?
I do. I've worked through it and I've allowed myself to feel those feelings. And I've been doing EMDR therapy, and I did I don't know if I'm going to say it right, Shihomie with Judith Hancock's. I don't know
Right.
if I'm saying it right, but I'm doing different things to help out. And so emotionally, I feel like I'm in a better spot and I've had growth, and I call it the ugly cries don't last as long or come as much. And I don't cry every day. So I've seen that growth. So I feel like I'm getting stronger, but I think it's the stuff with helping parents heal that's, me starting to believe more that they're right here with me. They're listening to me. They're trying to send me messages and I can see some, but some of them I don't get. It's like open my eyes and start seeing.
Wow.
So,
I'm getting blown away here. I thought Jessica was going to set the
oh, she's
record.
amazing. I was
Um,
like, dang, I want some of her energy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what you went through, I mean, you realize some people just get stuck and stay stuck, understandably, because of being triple teamed like that. So the other technique I recommend for you, Becky, is called Ask Your Soul. And this is described in article number 71. And this is one of the free audio programs on that Shining Light Resources page. The whole title is Ask Your Soul, Angels, and the Light. Because you understand what most of us get is what our brain thinks. The only trouble is the brain can only see a pinhole of the big picture of life. And so this ask your soul technique allows you to quiet your brain, and then you can ask specific questions. I ask, first of all, I think 9 or 10 of the most common ones, like, how can I deepen my spiritual path? How can I improve relationships, etc. But then there's a couple fill in the blank ones at the end. And that's another way you could ask, okay, what's the message here? How am I supposed to react to this? How can I best move forward? So between the pre-birth planning and Ask Your Soul, that's going to give you a couple powerful tools. And as with everyone tonight, please keep in touch. I mean, you're not bothering me. I'm not going to respond with a long letter, but I'll respond briefly. But I really would like to know how you're doing in 60 to 90 days, and then where we can go from there. Anything else, dear one?
I have no other questions for me. So
Okay, Lynn, can you pick more of an average human here? I mean, I'm getting blown away by these amazing.
I know, we have quite the group tonight. Thank you, everybody. How about
We need
anybody
to,
have any questions?
I was going to say, we need
Should
to
we quit
create
while we're
another,
ahead?
we need to transcribe their answers and create
We
another
do. Yes,
from the
thank you,
theme.
Becky and Jessica. You guys are amazing. Giving everybody some hope.
Looks like Lisa has raised a hand.
Oh, Lisa and Diane.
So if you speak up, Lisa, and I'm
Hi.
mute.
Hi. So my son passed October 29th of 22, so his 2-year anniversary is coming up. So I found him. It's still being, I go to mediums, so I get different results. So I'm like even today. So it's still being investigated. I just don't know officially what happened to him. All I know is he didn't make it. But the first night, actually, while I had to stay in the driveway because they ushered me out of the house. I swear, I know my son. I know what he sounds like. I literally heard him crying, not bawling his eyes out, but crying. And it sounded like it was in my bathroom, that window. Okay. So then the officers came out and let me know, sorry, ma'am, your son has died. I begged them to work on him again. So a little while later, I think it was EMT or fire came out, because it said fire on the shirt, but they told me EMTs wear those too. And they said the same thing. So that night, I heard my son, Mom. I was sleeping, and I hear, Mom, Mom. I was trying to get up so fast, but it was so dark and I couldn't see him, but I heard him. I heard him that night. The next day, I heard him a couple of other times, but I relocated into a different state to be with other extended family members, because I was up there by myself with my fur babies. So in this new house, I took a fall. No, well, before I fell, I heard him here in this house, and I know it was him, but there was someone else there. I don't know who it was. So I fall asleep, like I'm in the computer chair with my laptop. So that's what happened that night. And I always fall asleep in this chair. I've had it for almost 5 years and never fell. But that night, I heard, wake up, you're gonna fall. And then the next thing I know, I fell. My face went against the wall. I scraped my face, my arm, and all that. My leg got twisted. But oh, that's right. So so this is the last time I heard him. So before he said, you're gonna fall. The other voice came in and said, you're not supposed to, I don't know, I can't remember exactly the wording, but you're not supposed to interfere, or you're not supposed to help her. And I heard him say, but she's gonna get hurt. And I've already taken a few falls, because I really, like everybody else, took my son's death really hard. So I did take some bad falls. So since then, my question is that what, like, is he being prevented from communicating with me now, or I don't know. It's just kind of that night.
Okay. Let me just make a note of that being prevented. Well,
Yeah,
first
like,
of all, I understand that people like to have closure and understand why he passed, but in a way, it really doesn't matter. However he passed, whatever caused it, it's just his ticket back home. It's the ticket to the next phase of life. So if you can, kind of not focus on that. I'm fascinated by, you heard him say, wake up, which, by the way, could be a dual meaning, wake up so you don't fall and hurt yourself, but wake up spiritually, wake up to the big picture of life. But then this other voice, you perceive you're not supposed to help her.
Yeah, either it was a female voice.
Yeah.
Saying either you're not supposed to interfere, or you're not supposed to help
Sure.
her,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. So keep in mind, when I grew up, I thought people had passed on or in heaven like a zillion million miles up in the sky. I didn't believe in hell, and it turns out there's no such place, fiery eternal hell. But what we know now is that it's all life is right here and now. It's just different frequencies. That's why some mediums can see people have passed on, because they're right here. They're just in a different vibrational frequency, a different time-space dimension, which is right next to ours. So my feeling is that you were in that hypnagogic state, as we discussed before, half awake, half asleep, and you were hearing them talk, and you were maybe hearing one of his soulmates or one of the people with him say, you're not supposed to interfere, because they knew that you had a soul plan And, maybe you got to knock your head against, are you hard-headed by nature?
I must be because
Maybe you got to knock your head in the wall.
I've taken some
Wake up.
nasty falls. I have some injuries.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
interfering
so-
with me.
But to answer your most important question, is he being prevented from contacting you? And the answer is a resolute no, because you realize God, the light, is in charge of everything. And what is God's will? Peace, joy, love, communication. So no one would block him from that, except if it were part of the soul plan that you have. So I'm not saying this is the case, but let's say your soul, and keep in mind, again, eternity is forever. You may have been to Earth 1,000 times, and each time you tend to kind of fall asleep and forget the program. And so if that's the case, that's the only reason I could think of that they're saying, no, don't interfere. She's got to learn this on her own, learn the hard way. Because, once you really learn something, then you own it, you internalize it. But as far as him being stopped by somebody else communicating, no. As far as him like giving up on you or not caring, no. It would just be if this is part of the plan for your awakening.
Yeah.
Questions about that or comments?
I actually had when I'm a cancer survivor, so I actually had a near-death experience when he was taught he was probably about 5, 6 years old. He was young. This is why I'm confused too, because I was told I was up there. There is purgatory because what I seen, it's scary. It's a long story, so I'm just gonna try to keep this short. I'm not gonna go to the beginning of that. I went to his light. I told my son to do the same thing. I begged them to let me back because when they told me to pull him his hair and they're gonna take his body, I said, please, I need to say goodbye to him and I love him and I want him. I have to talk to him. They didn't want me in there, but I went in there anyway. And I told my son, go towards the light. Don't be afraid. I know you're scared, but go to the light. And then I started naming off relatives that passed that he knew and look for them. Because when I seen my mom's parents and my father's mother who passed.
Excuse me, dear. We're going to have to
Okay.
two other people have questions to wrap.
Sorry.
But I would say see article number 94 about near-death experiences. And then also I have a technique called the life review technique, because the life review is one of the most transformational components of a near-death experience. And that's discussed in article number 45. But did I hear you say that you perceived that there was purgatory? You can just nod
That's
your
what
head.
someone told me it was because it was scary at the beginning.
Okay, well, I will just address that quickly, that I spent some time discussing this with Raymond Moody and Eben Alexander, and we all agreed that NDEers who perceive hell or purgatory, that can be a carryover from the earthly beliefs, or it can be a soul that didn't enter the light, so they feel like they're stuck. But the way it works is anytime anybody says, help me, God, they open to the light, boom, it's right there, because that's our true nature. Wonderful questions. Thank you very much, Lisa.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ooh. And we had one other person who had their hand up.
We had Glory and Diane that both had their hands up. Do you guys still have questions? Diane is saying yes.
All right, if you speak up, I'll be able to see you.
Can you hear me?
I can now, yes.
Yeah,
Hello.
thank you for everything you've done. I lost my son 2.5 years ago to cancer, and I will readily admit I'm not as evolved as a lot of the parents that you have on the call tonight. He was 30 and died from a cancer that normally only older men get, so we don't know where it came from. I've seen 3 mediums and I've had mixed results with that. It's never as clear as a grieving parent wants it to be. My question though is, how do I read any signs that he's trying to give me? I've talked to the mediums about it. I have felt, especially right after he died, every night I would go to bed and I would feel something touching my face. In fact, it was beginning to make me want to sleep with my light on. I didn't know what the heck was going on. But a lot of the other signs that people say to look for, to me, they're just life coincidences, and I'm not sure how to tell the difference.
Yep. Well, here's some of the answers. Do you have a copy of the book Shining Light Parents Speak yet?
No, I've got a stack of reading though. I'm working my way through Michael Newton's books right now. I'm reading everything I can get my hands on, but that one I haven't gotten yet.
Yeah, Newton's awesome, but I would put at the top of your stack this Shining Light Parents Speak, because this is the cream of the crop of the 130 parents. And there's a whole chapter on how these parents have learned to better perceive their child. And so you would learn a lot from that. Another way to get that information would be to watch the videos I mentioned. And then the next way is, I wrote an article number 6 about evidential mediums, and they vary in how good they are and so on, but the ideal really is to develop your own relationship, your own perception. And you're in the process of doing that. 2.5 years is not all that long. So I would see article number 9 I referred to before and use that facilitated afterlife contact technique, which is under the Shining Light resources, and just use that maybe 2 or 3 times a week and just get more use. One of the things you'll read in article number 9 is talk to him as if he's really there, because he is. Can you mute this person? It says iPhone. There we go. So speak up, please, Diane, so I can see you on my screen again.
I'm right here.
Okay. So one of the things I share in article number 9 is speak to him as if he's there, because he probably is. And other things are set an appointment, say, hey, can you meet tomorrow at 9 in the morning for a cup of tea? And some parents will set out 2 cups,
Yeah.
just sit there and talk, because it takes practice. Well, it takes time to build relationships on earth. So same way when one person's on earth and another's in the next phase of life. And then with practice, you'll get, how do you receive? You might feel, you might hear, you might know, and you might be able to see some visual clues. So use those techniques, read the articles, and just develop that. And I think that'll give you the contact then that you're understandably seeking. Any follow-up questions about that, Diane?
No, thank you. I know we're running tight on time. I want to let others have it. Time for questions. Thank you.
Okay. My pleasure. Take care.
Glory, did you have a question? Do you want to unmute? Well, we can't hear you.
I'm trying. I'm okay. I'm still very new. My daughter transitioned almost 5 months ago, and today's just really hard.
What's your name, Glory?
Rose.
Rose. Beautiful. By the way, we're not in a rush. We don't have to end right at the hour. So you take your time and we'll work on this. How did Rose change worlds?
She was crossing a crosswalk when a drunk driver hit her.
Oh, Lord.
She transitioned at 14. You brought up soul contracts, and I had a question because my belief system has always leaned more towards soul contracts in the afterlife, and that we're all balls of light in human form right now. She's my rainbow baby. She came to me after 5 miscarriages, and I really struggle with the idea that we planned this. Like, why would I agree to that?
Well, first of all, would you say, did you feel like when she was on Earth that she was an old soul, that you're in the presence of an evolved one?
Yeah, she is definitely an old soul, and it's I don't know how to describe it. Just some things would come out of her mouth regarding death and life, and that I just kind of, the more that I think about it since she transitioned, I feel like she knew. Um, especially some of the videos I watch on her phone. Um, I feel like she knew she wasn't going to be here long.
Yep. And after she passed, did you hear stories like I was referring to, people's lives she touched that you didn't know about?
Yeah,
Well, that makes you smile.
yeah.
Tell me one, please. What's one of your favorites?
Almost all of her friends have stories about how she was the mature one, even at 14, that she was great at giving advice and always wanting to help people, um and that was the girl that I encountered. Um but we never know who our kids are when they're out of our sight. Um she was very mature for her age, and very spirited and feisty and opinionated, and um people have said some really kind things about her innate inner wisdom, even at her young age. I just miss her. Like, I got signs. I started getting signs really quickly. I sat at the accident site for 8 hours before the coroner took her earthly vessel away, and I'd come to realize in the last few weeks that the conversation that I thought that I was having with myself, um, that um that I was going to be okay, and that I was going to get, my son was going to be okay, and that I was going to find meaning in this, and that it was going to hurt my whole life, but that I was going to miss her, and but that we were going to be okay. There's a whole it was 8 hours. But within 24 hours of me getting home, the lights in her room were blinking, and I get hummingbirds. I get a lot of signs.
Good.
I talk to her often. Every day I wake up and I go in her room and I light a candle and I tell her good morning. Um, One of the things that keeps coming up in readings is that there is a specific path that I'm supposed to take, but it's a very confusing path and I don't know where to start. My last reading I had last week, I asked for some clarity on that path. And the medium said that she went silent and she's smiling and she was laughing. And I don't know what to make of that. So,
Okay. Well, this is excellent. First of all, 5 months and passing like that, of course, that's a shock. But her profile fits so many of the kids, which was she was an evolved one. I mean, that's why I don't know if you read my Q&A in the Helping Parents Heal newsletter. It's called "Evolved Souls Don't Need Long Earthly Lives." So yeah, she's an old soul. She came here just for a short while, shine some light, wake some people up, bless some people, but she didn't have to do the whole, 90-year thing. In other words, she wasn't a younger soul who needed to learn and all that. She was like an angel, visited here for a while. So it's really good that you have a sense of What are you supposed to do? And the readings are helping. But what I've found is that a person can do better on this pre-birth planning work once they've got cleared out. You're pretty emotional yet to proceed with clarity. So I would use two of the techniques we've already mentioned. Holistic breathing technique, article number 70. It's under those resources, Shining Light resources. And then ask your soul. So you're talking to your inner self, you're talking to your angels, to God, and say, how do I survive? What should I do next? I would do that for about 2 months before you try the pre-birth planning technique, because for the reasons I mentioned right now, I just don't think you'd be able to go deeply enough to have a really good pre-birth planning session. But for considering what happened, you're doing really well. I would just like to share this story is for everyone. This was the first conference, and I was leading that facilitated afterlife contact session. And there were several hundred parents in the room. And this mom came up afterwards and she said, I was hoping to contact my daughter, who was, her body was, the daughter wasn't, but her body was killed by a drunk driver. And I was hoping my daughter would visit. She said, to my surprise, the drunk driver showed up. Okay, so again, she's deeply relaxed, visual imagery, and the soul of the drunk driver came. Apparently, this drunk driver had died in between, since hitting. And she said, I looked into his eyes, couldn't wait to tell him how much I hated him and how evil he was and how he ruined our lives. She said, I looked in his eyes and all I saw was sadness and love. And she said, what I got was, he is one of our soulmates. And his job was to be the drunk driver that, made my daughter pass on, because we knew as a soul group that it would wake us up and it would make me, the mom, a powerful light in the world. And she said, and it has. She said, I'm going to get my money's worth. I went through this. I'm going to find the blessings. I'm going to share with everybody I can. I'm going to make my daughter proud. But seeing the big picture of life, and what I'm describing is called a contrast soul. And I discuss those in article number 67. And this is also applies to, like, people say, one of my parents was abusive. Well, were they a imbalanced beginner soul, or were they one of your soulmates who purposely took on a mean persona, just like people do in a play or a movie, for good reasons? And it's all about love and it's all about growth. So for you and the others here, I recommend you watch this video again. And then can you share, please, is there a special place on the website where these Ask the Soul Doctor videos are stored? Because we covered a lot of things. And so listen to what I'm telling you again, and then put those action steps into place. And then same thing, all I ask is that you check in with me about 60 days. Let me know how you're doing. And then we'll fine tune it and go from there. And
Okay.
make Rose proud of you. And I see that on your t-shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, sister, take care. God bless.
Thank you.
So everybody, those videos are under the helpingparentsheal.org website under resources, the Shining Light resources. There's resources from Shining Light Parents and Dr. Mark Pitstick.
So that's where the Ask the Soul Doc videos are parked?
It looks like it. Listen to free interviews. It's got your articles under here.
Yeah, they weren't there before unless she's added them.
Oh,
So
I don't maybe. I don't see the videos per se.
Okay, well, I would say to folks, peruse the Helping Parents Heal website, and we will find out in the meantime. If you would make a note, please, Lynn, and we'll find out because I'm pretty. I wonder if you could look under YouTube
Well,
video.
here, free sessions from HPH classes, holistic breathing, ask your soul angels and God, facilitated afterlife contact, all on the YouTube pre-birth planning. Are those the ones you're talking about?
Yeah, I think under the YouTube videos, there will be a section where these Ask the Soul Doctor videos are stored. But anyway, a wonderful session. Watch it again once you find it. And we will, I'll share it in my next newsletter, how to watch those and find those again. And in the meantime, you've got my email address, mark@soulproof.com. I really don't mind. I've got so many resources. I literally can answer you in 5 minutes and give you $5 million worth of information and resources. So take advantage of that. Wishing you all a great rest of your evening, and I look forward to seeing you again. Letting it shine. Take care.
Thank you,
God bless.
everybody. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Good
All
night.
right.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome. And Cheryl, we were talking about you earlier, dear one, how you've bloomed and made your breakthrough.
I was
Super
bragging
job.
about you, Cheryl.
Yeah, I know. You even look different. Look, you look younger,
you do.
prettier, healthier.
Unmute yourself, Cheryl.
You're still muted.
Well, we can't hear you. Well, we can't hear you, Cheryl.